Hi, and welcome to another episode of Senior Spot. Today, we're going to be moving away from our typical focus, which is usually community resources and different things for our senior population. And we have two guests actually today to be able to share their work experience and their interactive personal experience with Emerson Hospital Center for Rehabilitative and Sports Therapies. And that's a mouthful, so I have to look at my notes. So here today we have with us a physical therapist with the group and a patient with the group, a former patient, and we're really thrilled to be able to share your story. And so I'd like to introduce everyone to Julie Lorden, who is a physical therapist, and to Tanya Boucher, who is going to tell us an extraordinary story of how these two ladies worked together to really come out with a success story for Emerson Center for Rehabilitative and Sports Therapies. Okay, so Tanya, well, you're a Westford resident too.
Yes, yeah,
all right, so this just brings it all together. And you grew up in Westford.
I did, yep.
Fantastic. So here we have PT and a former patient and their story. So we love stories. Everyone loves a story. And so I'd love to just hear, how did the two of you come together? It wasn't from being neighbors in Westford. There was something really, serious that happened that we want to hear your story.
Okay, yeah. It will be actually 2 years this coming March. I was at work one Friday afternoon, had a dull headache, ended up suffering a brain hemorrhage on the left side of my brain, on the sensory cortex, which caused a stroke. So within about 2 hours of going to Emerson Hospital, I lost all sensation on the right side and really lost the ability to walk. I was in intensive care for about a week. I went to an inpatient therapy for another week after that, and then I came, my goal was really to get home to my kids. And then I came home knowing that I'd be focused on intensive outpatient therapy, which is how I met Julie.
Okay. Yeah. So that is a really serious thing to happen to someone as young and fit and healthy as you. And I think that's one of the reasons why I wanted to have you as guests, was to really focus on the fact that these things can happen to people of all ages.
Right.
So tell me about, the different ways, your goal for your first appointment. You said that you wanted to get home, you wanted to have outpatient services. So what was your goal when you first, walked in to see Julie?
Well, my goal really was, the hope was that I was going to get back to where I was before and my capabilities that I was able to do before, but I really didn't know if I could. I was back walking again. I think I was on a walker, maybe a cane, or when I first came in. I was walking on my own.
You were walking on your own, yeah.
But, I still wasn't. I was pretty active before all of this happened. And so the hope was that eventually I'd be back to being just as active as I was before.
Okay, well, and it's going to be really interesting to hear a little further along just how active you are. And in our discussions prior to sitting down together, just learning about how you feel like you're even more fit and taking even better care of yourself after the fact. So, all right, so tell us about, the physical therapy piece of it. She walks in, she has these goals. How do you help the patients be able to attain and achieve those goals?
Yeah, so, Tanya is definitely a different story than most of my patients, although I do see younger stroke patients periodically. It's not super uncommon, unfortunately. But for the first thing is I get to see a name and an age on my schedule.
And I'm sure that was
to see,
oh my goodness,
36 years old, 37 years old, and young woman. I have no idea what is coming in when I see that, because I automatically kind of don't think someone who's super healthy and fit, and I'm like, what could have happened to them? There has to have been some underlying cause. And then I go out into the waiting room and I call for Tanya, and it's Tanya. And she's young and fit, and she was walking in on her own. No assistive device or anything. Her recovery had already started to take a pretty good turn by the time she came to see me, which was nice.
Really, really hard on that too.
I did. I mean, it's funny because your life goes 100 miles an hour and then it very abruptly stops. Mm-hmm. And so my job was getting better. I mean, that was, very rarely in life do you get time just to completely focus on yourself.
This is true.
And all of a sudden, all I had to focus on was getting up every morning and getting ready for physical therapy, because I wanted to be back with my children and back to the hectic life that I had before then.
And you had to find the right coach.
Absolutely.
And Julie was the coach
Absolutely.
to be able to get
Yep.
you to that point.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. So, you know, what types of therapies and treatment? I mean, how did you go from that point of walking in without assistance, but still, you know, having a very long road ahead of you, to where you are right now? Or even when you left feeling like you did meet that goal? What types of therapies, what types of, you know, activities? What's typical of someone, and maybe just, you know, telling us about this particular case?
In Tanya's case, she came into therapy actually fairly strong. Her strength wasn't as much impacted for a lengthy period of time. What she really struggled with was the kinesthetic awareness of her right leg, which means she really had no idea where her right leg was in space.
Okay.
If I asked her to you know, lift her foot up, she couldn't do it without looking at it. She also didn't have very good proprioception in her right leg, meaning the ability for her muscles and joints to get the feedback from the ground to help her to balance.
Sure.
So she couldn't stand on just her right leg. She couldn't do, you know, a knee bend behind her with just her right leg. She just had no idea where it was or what it was doing. It was not really part of her body at that time. So we had to work on a lot of that, starting with lying down, you know, just lying on her stomach and having her bend her heel towards her bum, which was a pretty big challenge for her to begin with.
Absolutely.
Yep, doing things with her eyes closed, trying to, you know, draw the alphabet with her foot, with her eyes closed.
Absolutely.
And yeah, all those kinds of things to help, you know, retrain that pathway from the brain to her right leg as to where it was in space. That was the first thing we had to work on for sure.
Wow, and you know, it must have seemed to you at that point, like, how could such simple things really make such a big impact overall? And how, at some point, did you feel as if I'm just not going to get there?
Yeah, I mean, it was frustrating. I think that in the hospital was the first time when a doctor had me close my eyes and said, lift your foot up, and I opened my eyes and my foot was still sitting on the ground. And I was scared that I wouldn't ever get back to where I was before. And even, you know, as she said the alphabet, it made me laugh, because I remember those days I was like, oh, I couldn't stand it when I had to do the alphabet with my foot.
You're like, I already
is
taught
such a
my kids
silly-
that. Why am I
exactly.
still doing
Yeah,
that?
it's such a silly thing, but it was really, really hard. And, you know, jokingly, she also became almost a therapist as well, because you're going through a lot of emotions when you're going through something like this. You don't know what the end point looks like. You just have what's in front of you. And so there was a lot of days where I was having a really hard time just getting back into life and, you know, having a therapist that you click with, and we did. And she was somebody that I would talk to about a number of things that I was struggling with just in my recovery. And yes,
Sure, because that directly impacts your
Absolutely.
recovery.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
you're not able to make those
Absolutely.
milestones if emotionally
Right.
you're not feeling secure
Right.
and you're just feeling doubtful.
Yeah. Yeah.
So and it's interesting that you mentioned just that you clicked, because there are so many, you know, you're not the only wonderful PT there, obviously.
Right.
You know, so tell us about, you know, approximately how many physical therapists? I know you have other types of services, which we're going to get to.
Yeah.
But physical therapists, you have a number of them on the staff there.
Yeah, there's got to be, it's hard to even say, anywhere, I think probably like between 15 and 20 physical
And
therapists.
that's just in Westford.
Right, just in Westford, between full-time and part-time and per diem.
Okay.
There's a wide range, and then there's there's about 5 of us that are neuro
Okay.
physical therapists,
Right.
meaning we work with the
Specifically with
yeah,
stroke.
with the stroke and brain injury.
Sure, and
population.
Parkinson's, things that
Yes.
are all brain related.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So really there's a fit for everyone.
Right.
Which I think is I'm glad you brought that up, having the neuro specialty, because it's very, very different type of rehab for that versus someone that just had knee surgery.
Oh, for sure.
So, and I'm not sure that a lot of people are aware of that distinction
Right.
and
Yeah.
the specialty
Right.
that's there, that's right down the street in Westford.
Yes.
You wouldn't think of it.
Yeah.
So I really like that, you know, you mentioned that you clicked, but it really has to do with there's a fit for everybody.
Right.
And certainly having that emotional support makes a huge difference. And it's
Right.
very clear, just talking with you, knowing your story and seeing you interact with each other, it's very clear that you've developed a really nice bond and friendship.
We did, yeah.
So, and I can't wait to tell the audience exactly all the things that you've done together as well. So, you know, that first initial step, doing the alphabet, things like that. So what were the different like steps in the progression? And how long from when you walked in the door until, until you felt as if you met that goal that you initially set?
Yeah. So in terms of progression, it would be, like I said, we started with her lying down. Then we had her, she would be standing, on her left leg, doing the alphabet with her eyes closed, trying to tap different cones with her right foot at, a measured amount of force, trying not to knock it over, that kind of thing. Then we did a lot of balance stuff on different materials, so like a foam pad or a disc, a wobble disc, a Bosu, one of those half balls that people see at the gym.
Sure.
A lot of balance things on those to work on different things. I think even towards the end, I had her bring in some high heels.
Oh yeah, well,
she has to. She's a
show.
professional woman.
That's
she
right.
has to be able to wear appropriate
Absolutely.
shoes, and we had to
never
break
would
her
have thought
of
of
her-
that, but it is so
her
critical.
comfort with her tennis shoes.
Yeah,
sure.
So I had her bring in some, smaller heels. And we practiced walking around. We went outside,
Yeah.
remember?
Yeah.
We went
Oh,
Sure.
outside
I
and
mean,
walked
just the
around with our
different,
heels.
the different ground and that
yeah,
you're
Just
gonna have.
walking and talking was something
Yeah. Oh, my
that you don't even
goodness.
think about, right? Because walking takes a lot more mind control now for me, right? To
Sure.
think about what my foot is doing. And just being able to go out in the parking lot and walk around and have a conversation was kind of a big deal, which you would never think about it, but it was.
You're right. Again, that's something that I would take
Yeah.
for granted,
Yeah.
not having
Yeah.
had that experience.
We
Yeah.
boxed one day. We did
You
We
boxing.
did some boxing.
We did some boxing because
Yep.
it was even though it was my arms, your feet are very important in boxing.
Sure, you
Yep.
have to move
So-
your
And
feet
moved
you
around
can't
a
look
lot.
at them, right?
Oh,
Because you have
right.
to focus on what you're hitting. So that was fun.
Yep.
So we did a lot of different things that it wasn't the same old thing. She could kind of gauge my mood and then say, okay, let's
that's why
box.
we
You've had a tough day. Let's box.
You need to be able to hit something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And I had to work on, she had been in the hospital for quite a bit of time, and it takes no time to lose it, unfortunately.
The atrophy
and so
sets in really
from
very
day
quickly.
one, we had to start working on strength and endurance, rebuilding that was included. So every day we did either a bike, and then we worked our way up to the elliptical, and then the treadmill, and the boxing.
And you have
so
all of that
we have
there
all of
at the
that there.
center, which
Yes.
is amazing.
Yep.
You don't have to leave or
Yep.
go anyplace
Right.
else. And it sounds to me, it's so individualized. It's
Oh, well,
clearly
yes.
not a
100%.
one-size-fits-all.
Right.
Which is refreshing to hear, because a lot of times you'll hear, well, this is the protocol, this is what we're going to do, and these are the different steps, and people don't reach those goals
Right.
because it's not customized. So,
Right.
I mean, it sounds like as much hard work that you put into it.
Right.
It was fun.
It
I mean,
absolutely
was, yeah.
because it's a
It was.
drag. You
Yeah.
want to at least have some fun,
Yeah.
and it's amazing. The boxing. I mean, I did physical therapy many years ago for my shoulder. And let's just face it, I didn't really want to go back.
Right.
And that was nothing in comparison to what you've
Yeah.
experienced. Because it was kind of boring, and it was the same thing every time, Had it been mixed up a little, had it been really customized to my needs,
Yes.
then
I was sad when it was done. Like when I was done doing it, I was like, oh, I really enjoyed going these, like twice a week or wherever I was at the end. It was something I looked forward to doing because I knew I was getting better,
Right.
and it was just it was nice to go.
Yeah.
So, you mentioned something too, Julie, about the strength. So she came in with strength. Young person coming in is at a major advantage in
Yes.
terms of the rehabilitation process with
Yes.
having, a stroke. So, love to hear some advice that you would have for our elders, because that is typically the population that is experiencing, these episodes.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I can say, sure, get strong, get fit, but I mean, are there any things in particular that you could throw out there?
Yeah, I mean, just trying to stay as active as possible. I always say to all of my patients, you're only as old as you feel. So you need to stay active and stay trying to feel young. I know we all have our aches and pains, myself included. You just have to try to keep moving, and that's what's going to help keep things slowing down. So going to your senior center and joining those classes, they're excellent for all age groups. I mean, they have something for everybody at the local senior centers.
Oh, absolutely.
In every
I'm a big
town.
fan of them.
Yeah, yes, for sure. or just going to your gym, or going for walks, walk around the mall.
Sure, walk to
you know,
the
whatever
mailbox,
it,
do
yeah,
something, as
whatever
long as
it
it's
may
not
be. That's
a day like today,
exactly.
which is slippery, and we don't want to do that.
Yep. Yep. But
So, so that's your advice. Tanya, what about, what would be some of your advice for someone that has experienced this?
Yep.
In hindsight, looking back, what are some things that you might be able to suggest to somebody
Yeah.
that, goes through this?
Right. Well, I would just say, making it really your job, your physical therapy, and work your program. I mean, it wasn't just at physical therapy. There were things Julie gave me at home, too, that I
homework.
needed
So
to
you
do. Yeah, I had
absolutely had
homework
homework. Okay.
that my husband would help me with, but staying on track, because like Julie said, you can get off track very quickly, and so just really staying focused on the program. I think that's really the key. And I haven't regained sensation.
Okay.
So a thing to me that I think is pretty amazing, and a lot of my friends find amazing, is she re-taught me how to do all these things, but I never gained back that sensation. So she taught me how to do all this stuff a completely different way without
Wow.
gaining that back. So to me, that's a huge testament to what physical therapy can do, right? It's not like one day I woke up and it was all better. I relearned.
I wouldn't even know that was possible.
Right.
I
Yeah.
really
Right.
wouldn't.
Yeah. Right.
So, so you retrained your brain.
Absolutely. So for people that are struggling with this, it's possible to do, to still struggle with the symptoms of whatever happened to you and still get better. It's just a
love
new
that.
way of doing things. You have to find a new way to do things.
That's such a hopeful thing
yeah,
to share.
Yeah, we
because-
talked a lot about my new normal.
Okay.
My new normal is going to look different, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
But it sounds like to me you just have a real go get 'em type of personality.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
And
Thank you.
nothing was going to hold you back, but finding a partner to be able to
Absolutely.
really push you.
Yep. Yeah.
For sure.
I'm sure there were, like we said, days that you just said,
Yeah.
I'm done.
Yeah.
So I mean that advice is priceless because someone that's watching is
Right.
going to know somebody that
Yeah.
has had a stroke,
Yeah.
no matter what age they are, no matter what they're doing in life. So, so we're talking about rehabilitative therapies, but there's also obviously sports therapies,
Yes.
and you work a lot with that,
Yep.
obviously at the center. So can you speak a little bit more about, about that and how you work with folks there?
Well, the sports therapies, sports therapies doesn't just mean a sports injury. I think we kind of gear that towards just a general orthopedic injury.
Because that's where some of the senior population will say, I'm not
Yes.
active in sports.
Yeah,
That's
no.
not something. So that's good to
Yes,
clarify.
yeah, yep. So, general orthopedics, so back pain, knee pain, arthritis in any of your joints, joint replacements, pre and post-op surgeries for joint replacements or rotator cuff repairs, anything like that. We work with, all of it. We see it all. Definitely different times of day. We're open at 6:30 in the morning for those before work people.
Oh, that's convenient.
We take our last patient at 7:30 at night for those after work and after school people. We have a pediatric population, a huge pediatric program for the little ones, developmental delay or whatever it may be. We treat pretty much everything across the spectrum. We do a lot with concussions for those people that maybe have their grandkids are in sports
Yes.
or whatever, for the population watching this. We do baseline testing for concussion, and then we treat for concussions if kids or adults sustain a concussion.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Well, and you mentioned the pediatric piece of it. So, I mean, you also have other locations as well. So, in both locations, you're able to meet the needs of a variety of people for different things. So,
Yep.
tell us about the other location. I mean, everybody here, obviously
Yes.
watching, is very excited. It's right in Westford.
Yeah, so we
But
do
tell us
have our
about-
Westford location in the Emerson building here in Westford. Then we also have our main facility is in Concord on Baker Ave. Brand new facility, beautiful facility. We have aquatic therapy with a treadmill in the pool to work on walking and that kind of stuff without having too much load bearing on the
Sure.
joints. They have the OT department has a full kitchen and a bed to work on activities of daily living, which is super important after a stroke, that
is.
kind of stuff. We have, right there is the Cantu Concussion Center. So we work very closely with Dr. Cantu. and his team in our concussion rehab. So that's all right there within the main building. We also have a satellite clinic at the Thoreau Club, at the Thoreau Club, which is a gym in Concord. And we also have another smaller satellite clinic within Lawrence Academy for the students that go to Lawrence Academy.
That is brand new news to me, and especially when you're talking about concussions.
Yes, exactly. Yep.
And things like that happening on a regular basis.
We have that there, which is great to offer to those students.
So, I mean, all in this area, you can really just kind of hit multiple places wherever it's convenient for people to be.
Yep.
So, okay, we know you have made these huge gains, milestones, everything. Can you share the story of what you have done together outside of the center, you know, that really, I think, just in a nutshell, explains just how far you've come?
Yeah. Well, we've done quite a bit.
Yeah.
I was petrified to go to the gym the first time alone, so I think Julie came with me multiple times so I could go to the gym and feel comfortable with that. But just this past summer, we ran a 5K trail run together at Neshoba, which I had never run a 5K in my life. So even
And
pre
a trail
any of
run.
this,
So
trail run.
we're talking, you know, different.
Yes.
With
Yeah.
no sensation in the right foot.
Yeah.
Okay.
So she reminded me before I think right as we were starting, she goes, remember to look at your feet. Don't forget to look at your feet. I'm like, okay.
Your surroundings.
Okay. Which was huge because, like I said, I'd never run one prior to any of this happening. So, and just her commitment to me, even outside of the physical therapy and being, you know, so excited about the success that I was seeing was pretty amazing. So,
Well, I remember the first I met with Julie, you know, just to talk about the center because obviously in, you know, different clients that I work with, they're in need for a variety of reasons. And, you know, it was interesting when she shared a story of a person, obviously, which would remain nameless until this point. But, you know, just to hear the achievement that you made, it was, I couldn't believe it. I said, I think you need to be on this cable show. I think we need to share the story of what a gem we have right here in Westford.
Absolutely.
And, you know, that it's not just for people in the senior population. I mean, you're kind of, you know, you're young, but we're talking pediatrics too.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, and for parents here, you know, to know that there's a trusted place that their child is going to be able to have exactly what they need.
Yeah.
So that's a huge accomplishment.
Yeah.
I mean, most people can't ever say that in their life.
I know.
Never mind after everything that.
Yeah. So that was exciting.
And you're a regular going to the gym.
Go to the gym to Simply Fit in Westford.
Absolutely.
I go to the gym.
And that's no easy gym class,
No,
might I add.
it's
Okay,
fantastic.
there's a huge like asterisk next to that because of the fact that it's just it's a very rigorous workout too.
Yeah. And so like I said, there's my new normal, and I'm finding every day some of those things that maybe I did one way before and I need to do differently now. But,
Wow. And just, you know, and just thinking about your family too, you know, and your kids and just, you know, how were they at home when you had to do these exercises and things?
They were so helpful. They were unbelievably, you know, obviously that was a scary situation for them, but they were unbelievably helpful. If I would forget, they would remind me, do you have your band? You need to do these things with your foot.
They wanted their mom
They loved
to
the
get
alphabet
fast,
thing.
right?
Yeah. We do the alphabet thing. So yeah, they absolutely were very, very involved as well in my recovery, my husband also. So.
Lizzie went for a walk with us.
Yes,
one day,
my daughter did. She walked. I think she had me
wow.
carry her a portion of the way,
yes.
so that was good therapy as well.
Absolutely. Well, I think it's important too for people to know that there's a lot that goes on at home as well.
Absolutely.
You get the instructions
Yep.
from the coach or the
Yep.
teacher. You go home, you do this, and you know a lot of our senior population really has a hard time being motivated to actually keep that up at home.
Right.
So you know, just enlisting grandchildren maybe.
Absolutely.
You had your own
Absolutely,
children,
yeah.
but grandchildren or just
Yeah.
neighbors.
Yep.
Yeah.
Somebody to be able to step in because I mean, you've defied all the odds, in my opinion,
Thank you.
to be able to get where you are. And would you say this is one of your most favorite and wonderful success stories?
Yes. Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, and I made a really close friend out of it
Yeah,
too,
that
which
was a
is
good deal.
rare. But and even elderly patients, stroke patients that have come in and they want to get back to doing things with their family, with their kids, and they want to continue to live on their own. and helping them to get back to that, helping them to wean from having that 24-hour care
Right.
or all-day
And
care.
it's attainable, it's
Yeah,
doable.
it is, it
I
is.
just don't think that a lot of people realize how diverse
Yep.
the offerings
Yeah,
are there.
absolutely.
You know, so you mentioned obviously PT,
Yep.
OT.
Yep.
What are some of the other,
Yep.
you know?
So we have PT, OT, occupational therapy, and speech language pathologists, which I often have to explain to my patients about speech is that it's not speech. You're not having trouble talking, but they work on cognitive therapy. So different ways, especially for someone who's trying to get back into work, or for someone who wants to, an elderly person who wants to be able to continue to manage their bills and that kind of stuff on their own. They'll help them, you know, come up with different ways, new ways, a new way to do these kinds of things.
That's amazing because I was in education for 20 years before owning my company, and when you think of speech therapy, you do think of just the process and the physical part of speaking. But that is amazing to learn and understand that it really carries over into some life skills that are essential.
Huge, yep.
And I don't think a lot of people would know that there's that particular type of help out there.
Yeah,
So
yep.
that's
And the three disciplines, and even our doctors and stuff, we all work very closely together, and we pride ourselves on that. You know, we stay in good contact with each other and with the patient on helping them to achieve the goals that are important to them. So,
well,
it's
I'm
very
so
important.
excited that through the course of our conversation, I know there are going to be pictures that are shown, obviously, to be able to show, you know, your achievement together. And, you know, I thank you for coming in and sharing your story. It's a very personal story, but it's so motivating. And to know that we have right here the Center for Rehabilitative and Sports Therapies through Emerson Hospital in Westford. What a gem, and to have a Westford native be leading, you know, the individualized support there. So thank you so much, Julie, for coming in.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you, Tanya, for being
you.
able to share your story. It's
you.
just huge success.
Thank you.